So as you can see, we are having these two topics left. Lecture number 7. Topics to be covered: single sign-on and federated identity management. It will take hardly 30 minutes of time, and after that, we are having the test from 2:30 to 3 p.m. The test will be basically a multiple choice questions test. 30 questions, 30 minutes, and minimum passing criteria is 50%. So you need to get 15. You need to get 15 marks at least to pass the test. It's not that difficult. It's really simple. Just it might be a little confusing with few definitions and all. Rest it's simple. So all the best. Let's start with this lecture for today. First of all, I will be discussing about what exactly is single sign-on. Then I will move towards the next topic, which is called as federated identity management. Both topics are quite similar, but they are also having few differences between them. So we'll discuss what are those differences and how these applications or how these concepts are used in the real life. Okay? So let's start with the very first topic, single sign-on, with the help of a video. So let me play this and let me know if it is audible. Is the voice clear?
No, sir.
Are you able to listen to it? Okay, okay, thank you. Let me play it.
Sir, nothing is audible.
Okay, voice is not audible.
Too cracky, sir, too noisy.
Because of network issues, might be. Don't worry, I will explain it. Okay, let me start. I will play the video. Watch it properly first. I will then explain it from the start. Okay.
Sure, sir, thanks.
Okay, so what exactly is happening? Single sign-on is a proprietary product where a single authentication allows you access to multiple applications with the same credential. Okay, I will keep on pausing in between. I will give the narration if the voice is not audible. Now it's clear, right? Let the video play and I will give the narration. Okay. So basically, single sign-on is an authentication process that allows you or any of the users to access multiple applications with one set of login credentials. Clear? This definition is clear. So whenever we are wanting to log into something, for example, the best example over here is Google. So whenever we log into any Google service, over here they have given the example of Gmail. So whenever we log into any Google service with our login credentials, okay, we enter our username, we enter our password, and we get access to the whole set of Google's applications. For example, that could be Gmail, that could be YouTube. Similarly, that could be Google Analytics and so on. So one Google account is sufficient to access all of the services Google provides. You might have noticed you have your universal.edu.in account that is again linked with Google G Suite. So whenever you access with that G Suite account, you are eligible to access any of the applications that Google provides, which are basically part of G Suite. You can access Google Drive, you can access Google Slides, you can access Google Forms with the same account. So you don't need to keep on logging in each and every time. For example, if I want to go to uh, console.google.com or forms.google.com or drive.google.com. I can access it using the same Google account, right? So basically, whenever you click on any such website, you are not required to log in each and every time, because once you log into Google, you are eligible to access each and every feature which Google provides. Clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You can see these are the many applications which Google provides. For example, there is Picasa, there is Google Drive, Google Chrome, Google Gmail accounts, Google Maps, and n number of things. I'm just taking example of Google because it's the most common example which we use in our day-to-day life. Okay, so the same thing happens. What exactly happens is, have a look at this particular diagram. Basically, there is a central repository. That central repository will be the authenticator, or you can say identity provider. I will show you in detail what exactly I'm talking about. Identity provider is the main authenticator that will authenticate you once, and based upon that authenticator's response, all of the services will be provided to you. In this case, your authenticator or your identity provider is nothing but Google engine. So whenever you log into Google, Google will share your credentials with each of the features or the applications that Google has. So basically, what happens is, whenever we are talking about SSO or single sign-on, there has to be a single application, or there has to be a single organization which has multiple applications. For example, Google can be termed as an organization that has multiple applications. So Google is authenticating you once, and once you're authenticated, you can access any of the applications that organization provides. So in this case, the authenticator is Google. Google may have some payments option, for example, Google Pay. It may have some accounts, for example, Gmail. Similarly, for storage, it has an application, for example, Google Drive, and so on. So basically, in the center, you can see that is an authenticator. In this case, it is Google or the organization. And on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side, you can see the various applications that that particular organization provides. In this case, these are the applications. Clear so far? So this is how you log into your Google account. And once you log into a Google account, you get access to all of the features that Google provides. For example, you may simply log into Gmail, but that doesn't mean that you are restricted only to Gmail. You can even access YouTube with that particular login, right? This is what we call as uh, single sign-on. Now, how does it happen? For example, this image is very much clear. This image is very much evident. Whenever you log into a website, it creates a cookie, right? The cookie value stores all your session information, your login credentials, etc. So that cookie value is shared among all the applications of that organization. So for example, if I log into Gmail, a corresponding cookie is created. So whenever next time I log into YouTube, that cookie will be shared by Google to YouTube. Okay, so what happens is YouTube will not ask me to log in again and again. If it has got a cookie value, it will simply read my credentials from that cookie value. But on the other hand, if after accessing my Gmail account, I somehow log out of my session, so what will happen? The previous cookie value will not be found. So in that case, whenever I log into YouTube once again, that time YouTube will ask me about my login credentials. Why? Because the cookie value is not present right now. So all the passwords and all the login information is now vanished. So at that position, YouTube will ask me about my credentials. Otherwise, it won't ask me anytime about any of my credentials. Clear? Can you let me know if it's done? The same example is shown over here.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay, how the transfer of cookies take place. Sagar, see, we are talking about a single organization. So each and every organization has various applications belonging to it. So whenever I access YouTube, YouTube also belongs to Google. Similarly, if that particular application belongs to a single organization, only then SSO can take place. If I want to communicate with multiple organizations of different origin, then SSO cannot take place. In that case, we have to rely on something which is called as federated identity management, the next topic. This is the main difference between these two. If I want to communicate within a single organization, they can share the information with each other. But on the other hand, if I want to communicate with some other organization, I would need to again log in. For example, you can't log into Gmail and at the same time you can access Instagram, because Instagram and Facebook are linked together, but Gmail is not linked with Instagram, if I am making sense. Because Gmail is belonging to Google, Facebook and Instagram are together. For example, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram belongs to Facebook. So these are two different organizations. So I can't use my Gmail credentials on for logging purpose into Instagram, because Instagram will again ask me for my credentials. Is it clear? Correct. Yeah. So the cookies are transferred to all the apps which are under Google. Correct. So whenever I'm accessing any service from Google, Google will intrinsically send all the cookie values, share all the cookie values with all the Google applications. But if I want to use the same cookie on Facebook, that is not possible, because these are two different organizations. Okay. So that is what is the introduction of this particular topic, which is called as single sign-on. So yeah, I don't have to log in twice. This is what happens. Okay. So just yeah, see this one key to unlock several locks. We are having a single login credential, and we can access n number of applications for from that particular organization. That is what we call as a single sign-on. Okay, so this was all about the introduction of single sign-on. Now let me get into the technicalities of what exactly is single sign-on. Okay, kindly let me know if I'm going too fast. This is the interesting topic, so kindly pay attention to it. This comes for 10 marks. Again, what is single sign-on? Now you know what is the gist of this practical thing. What exactly happens with single sign-on? Okay, so single sign-on enables a user to securely authenticate with multiple applications and websites. Okay, so YouTube is an application, it is a website as well. So basically what happens, how does the authentication take place? Over here, the steps are shown. Without single sign-on, this is an ideal scenario. Sorry, this is a normal scenario. What exactly happens when we don't have single sign-on installed at the server side? Okay, so let's have a look. Without a single sign-on, what you have to do is, the very first thing is the user visits the website. After visiting the website, the user will be asked for the credentials, and hence the user will be authenticated. Okay, see over here. If you are not authenticated already, the particular website or the particular application will ask you for your username and password. Okay, if your username and password is present in the database of that particular website, you will be authenticated if it is correct. Otherwise, your authentication will fail. This a similar kind of scenario happens in your desktop also, in your machine also. You enter your Windows password. If it is authentic, you will be granted access. Otherwise, it will keep on asking you to enter your correct information. That is what happens if you don't have a single sign-on installed on the server. This is the scenario. You enter into the website will check whether your name is present in the database. If it is present in the database, then you will get access to that website for that website only. Okay, but what exactly happens with SSO is, it's a six step measure. In the previous case you saw there were only 3 steps, but in this case we are having 6 steps, but they're very simple. Kindly have a look what is happening. The website first checks whether you have already been authenticated by the SSO solution. SSO solution is nothing but the central authenticator, which we had already discussed. What exactly is an authenticator? Authenticator or the identity provider. Okay, the identity provider will check whether you have already been authenticated by the SSO, because whenever you visit a website, any website, it first checks whether you are already authentic. Just now I gave an example of YouTube. So just imagine you are accessing YouTube for the very first time. Okay, you don't have your credentials saved onto your machine. What will happen? It will first of all check whether you are already authenticated or not. If you are authenticated, then YouTube will simply log in your account, and it will give you services. But on the other hand, if you're not authenticated, what will happen? If you migrate from YouTube to Gmail, okay, again Gmail will check. It will not ask you. It will simply check at the background whether you are already logged in. If you are logged in, then it will not send you any what you can say notification, any message to simply log in. But in case if you have logged out of YouTube before moving to Gmail, then only it will ask you for your authentication. You're getting my point? So once you are authenticated by Google, you won't be required to log in each and every time. That is point number 2. If you haven't, it sends you the SSO solution. It sends you to the SSO solution to log in. So it will ask you to log in. You enter your single username password. Step number 4 is the SSO solution requests authentication from the identity provider or authentication system that your company uses. In this case, the identity provider is your Google engine. Clear? Step number 5, the SSO solution passes the authentication data to the website and returns you to that site. It can be YouTube, it can be Google Drive. Okay, so once you're authenticated, you are basically sharing the cookie value, which is nothing but tokens. Okay, the cookie values are considered to be tokens which are passed among the various websites which you are visiting, which belong to obviously Google. So if you want to visit any Google application, only that single token, or in simple terms, the cookie value, is shared with all the Google services, and hence you will easily get access to all the Google services. Clear? This is what happens in single sign-on. Okay, so this is the last step. Okay, we'll get back to this, but first of all, I have to differentiate between federated identity management and this SSO. You got what exactly is SSO? Yes or no? If yes, then I can move ahead with federated identity management, because these two things are slightly confusing, almost same. Okay, okay, thank you so much. So let's get back to this topic, which is called as federated identity management. I will share this PDFs with you. You may find the definitions to be almost same, but try to find out the difference. This is what exactly is federated identity management. Let me read it out if it is not clear. FIM, or federated identity management. Yeah, obviously, Harsh, federated identity management is better. You can say that single sign-on is part of FIM, but FIM is not part of SSO. Why so? Okay, let's get back to this topic. Then it will be clear what I'm trying to say. Federated identity management is basically an arrangement, I'm just reading out, that can be made between multiple enterprises. Now, over here, enterprises simply mean organizations. Okay, so what exactly happens is there comes a concept of trust. There is a concept of trust involved over here. There will be a trusted third party, as you have already covered this topic in your previous subject, trusted third party, or you can say a certification authority. It's quite similar to that. A trusted third party will be an entity, or will be basically an enterprise or an organization that will authenticate the user on your behalf. In simple terms, that is what we mean as federated identity management. Once you are authenticated by that trusted third party, you could come to a position where you could easily access any of the applications from various organizations which belong to that trusted third party. Let me come back to this point once again. There is a concept of a trusted third party. All the organizations or all the enterprises register themselves to the trusted third party. Getting what I'm trying to say? That trusted third party will do all the authentication activities on behalf of all the enterprises registered to that trusted third party. You're getting it? Kindly let me know if I'm going fast. If anything needs explanation, I will do that. Okay. So basically, there is a trusted third party. I'm repeating once again, and all the enterprises or all the organizations need to register themselves to the trusted third party. This trusted third party TTP will then carry out all the authentication related activities on behalf of those registered entities. So basically, what it does is, once you log in into the trusted third party, you are not required to log in to each and every organization's websites separately, because now the trusted third party has already authenticated you on those websites on their behalf as well as on your behalf. So this basically saves your time, and this basically saves you multiple efforts of logging in each and every time to that particular website. Okay, so now let me get back to the actual technical definition, and this will make the things much clearer. FIM, or federated identity management, is an arrangement that can be made between multiple enterprises. Okay, this is important because in the previous case it was only about an organization, an application, multiple applications belonging to an organization. That was SSO. But in this case, we are having multiple enterprises, And you know what is an enterprise. An enterprise may consist of multiple applications, multiple websites, etc. Okay. It also let the subscribers use the same identification data to obtain access to the networks of all the enterprises. So once you get access to the enterprise, once you get access to the FIM, you get access to all the enterprises connected to that FIM. Okay. Okay. So the use of such a system is called as identity federation. Now let's see what exactly this identity federation is all about. Identity federation basically links a user's identity across multiple security domains. Okay, each supporting their own identity management. I will come back to this. First, I have made this point bold. Kindly read this. SSO is an important component of identity federation, but it is not same as identity federation. What does it mean? Can anyone let me know? Single sign-on is an important component of identity federation, but it is not same as identity federation. What does it mean?
मीन्स कि दोनों का वर्किंग सेम है, इसका मेन कंपोनेंट है, लेकिन बेसिकली ये सेपरेट थर्ड पार्टी एप्लीकेशन है, जबकि एसएसओ के लिए हम पूरा एक एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट करते हैं जो हम लोग यहाँ पे नहीं कर रहे हैं.
Correct. So basically we are creating a sandbox kind of environment for SSO. कि so and so applications ही work करेंगे. We can say that. Correct. We can say that SSO is a subset of FIM. Or FIM consists of SSOs, but SSO does not consist FIM, if I am not wrong. Okay, so we can say that SSO is a smaller subsection of FIM. We can say that multiple SSOs can work together inside a single FIM, because FIM can have multiple SSOs working beneath it. Those SSOs will then interact with the FIM as a single identity federation unit. समझो, this is nothing but a virtual kind of an environment. SSOs belong to that virtual environment, and they can then interact with the actual main server, which is called as an identity federation or FIM. Clear? SSO part hai FIM ka, but FIM is not a part of SSO. Now things will be clear, I guess. Okay. So what exactly happens is, this point is very important. Read this. In order for an FIM to be effective, the partners matlab whichever applications are wanting to get connected to that FIM, those are called partners or enterprises. Okay, the partners must have a sense of mutual trust. This is what I was talking about, the trust factor with the trusted third party. The authorization messages between the partners in an FIM can be transmitted using a language which is called as SAML, or Security Assertion Markup Language. So basically, it's similar to XML. All the partners interact with each other and with the FIM with the help of this language, which is called as Security Assertion Markup Language. Using this language, they can communicate with each other. So now let's have a look at the diagram first. If I'm not okay, I'm not having the diagram for this. Now see how the steps actually work out. What exactly happens is, the user first of all logs into their home network. Okay, user logs into their home network. First of all, मैं अपने home network पे log in करूँगा using my credentials. Okay, authenticating through the home security domain. Home security domain could be any of my login, any of the services which allows me to log in. So basically, after logging into my home network, what happens is, after I have authenticated, the users initiate an attempt to log into a remote application. Now, what do you mean by remote application in this case? First of all, I'm logging into my home network using my credentials. This is the very first time I'm logging. Nothing, no further authentication is required from my side. After that, I try to attempt a remote application. What is that remote application? जितना examples दिया है मैंने, try to correlate. What is that remote application I'm talking about? Try to hurry up, otherwise your test will be delayed. What is the remote application I'm talking about? The same example. For example, I entered into my computer lab. Just I'm giving an example. I enter into my computer lab. That is my very first authentication. I have been asked to enter my username and password. I entered my username and password. once I have been authenticated by my home network, now I would like to access facebook.com. Okay, so facebook.com is nothing but a remote application which might be accessible through the identity federation. You're getting what I'm trying to say. First, I enter into my local machine, I authenticate myself, and after that, whichever website or whichever application is associated with the federated identity management, if I try to access that, it becomes a remote application for me. Correct? So that application might be okay. So that application might be present anywhere in the world, but I could access that only if that is part of the federated identity management architecture. Otherwise, मुझे वहां पे भी जाके login करना पड़ेगा. If that application is part of federated identity management, I need not log in each and every time to that particular application. जैसे ही मैं facebook.com open करूंगा, it will simply open up the application for me. But on the other hand, if that facebook.com is not part of the FIM, जितनी बार मैं facebook.com ओपन करूंगा n number of times मुझे अपना authentication करना पड़ेगा हर बार. That is what is different between SSO and FIM. In SSO, what happened? You can access applications belonging to only a single organization, but in this case, FIM, you have to log in once first, and after that, you can access n number of applications belonging to multiple organizations. The only catch is that particular application has to be part of the entire trust network of FIM. You got what I try to explain? See, this is the third point. Instead of authenticating directly with the remote application, that application requests the user's authentication from the home authentication server. Home authentication server क्या है? जहाँ पे हम लोग पहले first step में authenticate कर चुके हैं, right? So we need to authenticate ourselves only once whenever we try to log into the network. After that, we don't need to log in every time to access all the remote applications. I hope this is clear. Kindly let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So let me quickly wind this topic with the help of this particular video. It's a thing. Again, the audio won't be audible according to you all. I will straight away jump to the differences part because we are running short of time, I guess, for the test. Okay. See this diagram. If the diagram is visible, let me explain this entire flow once again, single sign-on, and then I will go back to FIM. This is the diagram for single sign-on. So again, there is concept of a identity provider. The user logs in. The user first of all wants to access something from the service provider. Okay, the service provider could be again Gmail. So the user logs in to Gmail. The service provider checks whether the user is already authenticated to Google. If the user is authenticated to Google, the identity provider will tell Google that so and so user is authentic. Kindly don't proceed with the authentication once again. It will waste your time. So at the end, if the service provider is convinced, service provider in this case is Gmail, for example, Gmail or Google or whatever. In case if the service provider is sure that the person has authenticated to that particular application, to that particular organization, it will not ask for the credentials again and again, and it will simply provide access to that particular user. Just keep in mind, all the communication happens with the help of this particular language, which is called as SAML. It is not part of a syllabus, but again, if I get some time in the next lecture, I will explain what is SAML. Okay, using this SAML language, they communicate with each other with the help of this XML based language. Okay, next up, let me show you what exactly is the difference between this and FIM. Now you can see this diagram clearly. There is a very simple or simplistic sort of diagram if we compare this with your previous case, that is SSO. All the intrinsic communication, all the intrinsic activities have now been replaced with the help of this federated application. And you can see there is something written on top of that application. It is clearly mentioned as trust relationship. So the service provider has to have a trust factor with the federation application. So basically, if you trust the federated application, then whatever the federated application tells you, you have to accept that, right? So basically, what happens? The federated application is nothing but your trusted third party, which checks once with the identity provider. In this case, the identity provider is your home authenticator or your home server. As आपने पहले भी देखा example में, the very first point was you have to get yourself authenticated to the home application. So this identity provider is nothing but the home application. Once you get authenticated to the home application, that information is passed on with all the service providers. In this case, the service provider can be from a single organization or it can be from multiple organizations or multiple enterprises. That is the main difference between SSO and FIM. Otherwise, the entire intrinsic working is exactly same. SSO also works with the help of SAML. FIM also works with the help of SAML. The only thing is the concept of a trust factor comes in picture in case of FIM, and also multiple enterprises can communicate with each other in the case of FIM. Otherwise, rest everything is same. I hope you got this concept. This entire question may come for 10 marks. Difference between federated identity management and single sign-on, or a particular question in detail. What is FIM? What is SSO? And so on. So I will be sharing these documents with you soon. Okay. So is it clear? Is everything fine with this lecture? Can I proceed with the test? Kindly let me know, because today's lecture is not part of the test. No issues. Don't worry. Kindly let me know if you are ready. Okay, thank you so much. So let me give the link. This particular link will be your attendance as well as your quiz link. I will be active over here for the 30 minutes. If you have any queries regarding any question, you can ask me. So all the best. 30 minutes test. Okay. You can start.